Hello and welcome back. My name is Randy Scrapper, and I'm here with my colleague Brian Quinn, and we're continuing our discussions around cloud cost management. And we appreciate everybody coming back for our fourth video in this series around data management and how to set that up. So as we talked about our journey, we started off with setting up their application and our plugins. We talked a little bit around configuration in our next set of videos. In today's video, we're going to be talking around data management, right? Focusing on, setting up those billing downloads and pricing downloads from each of your cloud instances. So as I mentioned before, our implementation checklist can be found on the ServiceNow community. I have put the QR code here so you can kind of go right to it. So as we discussed earlier, we will be talking about phase three in our implementation checklist around data management. We're going to be talking about price sheets and billing downloads and making sure that that data is being properly recorded in your instance. So there's multiple steps to get these done properly. Each one is going to be set up a little bit different. So we have some QR codes here to take you to each of the individual steps that need to be done to be completed for each environment. And Brian's also going to be walking through how to set up these price sheet downloads jobs here shortly. So stick with us and we'll get to that. So once you get the price sheet downloads, we need to make sure that the billing download jobs are also set up and running properly. So here are some codes to that. Brian will also walk you through setting up those billing downloads for each of the three major cloud providers. And finally, once the pricing is in there and the billing is coming in, um, we do have a tool that is available that checks to see compares the data billing data from Metrobase versus what is in your provider's portal. And if you go over to the operations, you kind of go all the way back down to the tools, you can see where it says compare Metrobase with spend data. So you'll be able to quickly see if it matches, if it doesn't match. Now, if you do run this and there are, and if you're unable to identify the differences and there are match and the specific amounts do not match up, you can always open up a support ticket to help you track down that difference and to kind of find out why that's happening. Right, so that's another option that you do have. So I know this is a pretty quick slideshow, but Brian's going to kind of walk us through setting up those pricing downloads and jobs and making sure that the jobs are running properly. So without further ado, Brian, over to you.
Thank you, Randy. In today's demo, we'll cover setting up the billing download and price sheet download jobs for AWS, Azure, and GCP, as well as taking a look at the spend reports to help verify that Cloud Cost Management has downloaded the billing data correctly. We'll start with setting up AWS. The first thing we need to do is to change our scope. We'll go ahead and open up the scope selector and select Cloud Cost Management AWS. Once that's done, we can open up the Operations module and then select Service Accounts. Here we'll filter for all of our AWS accounts by doing a show matching on the AWS Data Center and open up our billing or management account. On this form, we can scroll down to the bottom and there is a checkbox for Is Billing Account. We'll select that and save. Now we can return to the Operations module and go to Billing Download Jobs, where we can create a new AWS billing download job. Here we'll give it an appropriate name and set the time for this billing download job to run. Then we'll select our server's account, and we will choose the management or billing account. And now we need to retrieve the information from the cost and usage export that we configured in the previous video. First, we'll set the S3 bucket name. Then we'll set the report name. And finally, the report prefix, if that's something that was configured as part of the export. Once all this information is set up, we can go ahead and click Save. And then we can use the test connection to verify all of our settings are correct. This test connection should take about a minute or two to run. And here we can see that everything's successful. So we can now close the dialog box and click on Execute Now to kick off our first billing download job. Here we'll configure the start and end months. In this case, we'll leave it as this month. Now, since this month will provide less than 30 days worth of data, Cloud Cost Management will automatically kick off a billing download job for the previous month as well. While the billing download job is running in the background, we can set up the price sheet download job. So we'll go back to the operations module and select price sheet download jobs, and then click on new to create a new record. Here we'll give a relevant name for the price sheet download job and set the provider to AWS. So this will be a monthly job that runs on the first of every month, and we'll also give it what time to run. And then we will set what data should be downloaded from the price sheet download. In this case, we'll select all, so we get the price sheet information for all resources. Cloud Cost Management will use this data when generating recommendations, such as right sizing or unused resources. Now we can go ahead and click Save, and then Execute Now to kick off the initial price sheet download job. Now we've completed our setup of AWS. Next, we'll look at setting up Azure. The first thing we need to do is to change scopes. So again, we'll go to the Scope selector and select Cloud Cost Management Azure. Once we've changed scopes, we can go back to the Operations module and go to Service Accounts, and we're going to create a new service account. So we'll click the New button, and this is going to be for the Azure EA enrollment number. So for the name, we'll give it, call it Azure EA. For the account ID, we'll put in the enrollment number. This is the enrollment number that we found in the Azure portal in the previous video when we were configuring the permissions within the Azure portal. And we'll set the Discovery credentials to the Azure credentials, and we'll set the data center type to the Azure data center. And we'll mark this off as is billing account true, and then we will go ahead and save the record. Now we can go back to the operations module and go down to billing download jobs and to the Azure tab, and we'll click new to create a new Azure billing download job. We'll give it a relevant name and configure what time the billing download job will run. And finally, we'll select the Azure Service account and click Save. Now again, we can do a test connection to make sure everything's configured properly. And we can see that everything tested successfully. So we can go ahead and close this dialog box and execute now to trigger the billing download job. Once again, we'll leave the start and end month as the default. And again, this will be fewer than 30 days worth of data, so it'll automatically download the previous month's data as well. Now that the billing download job is running in the background, we can also set up the Azure price sheet download jobs. So we'll go back to the operations module and to the price sheet download jobs and click new. We'll give the price sheet download job a relevant name. And And then we'll set the provider to Azure. And for which price sheet to download, we'll leave it as compute for right now. And once again, this job will run monthly. So every month we'll update and download the latest price sheet, but we'll still have to give it a time to run. And we'll try to offset this by a little bit so that it doesn't run at exactly the same time as other price sheet downloads. And then we'll go ahead and click Save. Oh, and what we do need to set the service account, so we'll set that to the Azure EA. Click Save again, and execute now to kick off the first price sheet download. Now, as you can see, we also have the ability to download database and storage price sheets, but we'll have to set up separate price sheet download jobs for each of those. So we'll go ahead and go back to the operations and create a new price sheet download. And we'll again give it a relevant name, this time calling out the fact that it is for the database. Then we'll set the provider to Azure, select the EA service account and the database price sheet. We'll give it a different time to run it and click Save. Now we can't do an execute now because there's already an Azure price sheet download running. So now we'll just move on to create the next price sheet download job. So go back to the operations module, create a new price sheet download. We will set the provider to Azure and select the storage price sheet, the EA service account. Again, give it a relevant name, this time calling out the fact that it's a storage price sheet download. Give it a different time and click Save. Once again, we can't do the execute now, so we can close this out, refresh, and we can see all of our Azure price sheet download jobs configured. Now that we've finished setting up Azure, we can move on to setting up GCP. Once again, we'll start by changing the application scope. So we'll open up the scope selector, this time selecting Cloud Cost Management GCP. And then we'll head over to the Service Accounts module. And we'll need to create a new service account for the GCP billing account. I'll give it a name, GCP billing account. And for the account ID, we'll use the billing account ID that we retrieved from the GCP console on the previous video where we set up the billing data export. Paste that in, and we'll select the GCP credentials. And for data center type, we'll set it to Google Data Center. Finally, we'll set is billing account to true and save the record. And now we can head back to the operations module and select billing download jobs and go to the Google tab and click new to create a new GCP billing download job. We'll give it the appropriate name. Then we'll set the time that we want the billing download job to run at. And for billing account, we'll set it to the service account record we just created. Now, in the previous video, we set up a billing export into a BigQuery dataset. So here we'll need to put in the project ID and dataset name for that BigQuery dataset. And once we paste in that information, we can go ahead and click Save. And we can test the connection. And once everything shows successful, we can go ahead and close the dialog box and execute now to trigger the GCP billing download job. Once again, we'll leave it for just this month, and it'll automatically pull in the previous month's worth of data as well. And while this is running in the background, we can go set up the price sheet download job. So we can close this, go back to the operations module, into price sheet download jobs, and click new. And we'll give it a relevant name. Set the provider to Google. And for the price sheet to download, select all. And we'll select the Google service account. And once again, this is going to be a monthly job. And we can configure the time that the price sheet download job runs at. In this case, we'll leave it as the default. We'll click Save and Execute Now to kick off the first price sheet download for GCP. And that wraps up our configuration for Google. So now we can go back to the home page for the Cloud Cost Management Workspace. And at this point, we're just waiting for all of the billing and price sheet download jobs to complete. So once those jobs complete, we'll come back and we'll start to take a look at the spend reports. Here we are back on the home page for the Cloud Cost Management Workspace after our billing download jobs have completed. As you can see on the overview section, now that the billing downloads have completed, we can see the total spend this month across all of our cloud providers and service accounts. In addition, we can see the forecasted spend for this month and a comparison to last month's spend. Next to that, you can see the total budget and variance. Right now, this is 0 since we haven't configured any budgets. We'll cover configuring budgets in a future video. And to the right of that, we have the total potential savings based on the recommendations generated by Cloud Cost Management or retrieved from the cloud provider. Below the overview section, we've got a bar chart showing our spend broken down by provider for this month, showing the actual cost. The actual cost can be changed to amortized cost. We can also toggle on and off the forecast to see what the forecasted spend for future months is. For right now, we'll change this time range to 3 months. Since Cloud Cost Management triggered the billing download for both the current month and previous month, we have 2 months of data to compare. As you can see, there was actually a large increase in spending from last month to this month. So we can actually use this chart to do some initial investigation. We can change this group by to service category. And we can see that the bulk of the increased spending is due to the application services category. And we can drill in a little bit further by changing this to cloud service. And we can see that there's a single cloud service that's driving the bulk of the increased spending. We can also break this down by service account. And the bulk of the increased spending is actually from a single service account. So we could reach out to the account owner to find out why there was such a large increase in spending and make sure they have the appropriate budget for that. We can also change this group by to purchase option to see how much of our spending is on demand versus reserved. To the right of the bar chart, we've got the recommendations. So some of the top recommendations that Cloud Cost Management has generated for saving money, or some recommendations that may have been retrieved directly from the cloud provider. Scrolling down below that is the top spend trend. So these are some tables breaking down the top spend, broken down by category, by cloud service, by provider, cost center, business service, and by Kubernetes cluster. You can see that the cost center and business service data is all empty. That's because we haven't configured the tags yet. We'll cover configuring the tags in a future video. Below the top spend trend is the actual versus potential savings. So this is showing the potential savings from the recommendations versus the actual savings from implemented recommendations. Since we haven't implemented any of the recommendations, this is all just showing potential savings. Again, broken down by provider, by service category, and by environment. Again, environment is showing no data because we haven't configured the tags yet. Scrolling up, back to the bar chart, we can click on one of the bars, and that will take us to the Spend Analytics dashboard. Here on the Spend Analytics dashboard, we can again look at our cloud spend data on a bar chart, but with some enhanced functionality. Here on the right, we can filter our data based on various criteria, including tag categories. So you can select a tag category and the specific tag values to filter the data on. Right now, we can't actually use this filter because we haven't assigned tags to these tag categories. But again, we'll cover that in a future video. We can also group by more options. So we also have the ability to group by region, resource group, tag categories. So a lot more options for analyzing your cloud spend data. Running through a quick example here, we can search for a single service account and see the spend for just that service account. And we can look at last month and this month to compare how the spend has changed between the 2 months. We can again see that there's an increase in spending, and we can group by region, and we can see that the bulk of the increased spend is coming from the West US region. So it looks like that region is being more heavily utilized this month versus last month. Below the bar chart, we also have the record view, which breaks down the individual line items costs for each cloud service account, and then the tag information for those particular costs. So if you need a more detailed view, you can use this record view to see some of that data. Spend Analytics dashboard also has Kubernetes spend analytics. This allows us to view the Kubernetes spend based on cluster name or namespace. And we also have the shared cost analytics, which allows us to see direct costs versus shared costs. Right now, everything is showing direct costs because you have to configure the shared costs. Configuring those shared costs will be covered in a future video as well. Now moving on to the spend dashboard. Here we can see our daily spend by service category. So it's giving us a day-by-day view of our cloud spend. Previously, we had seen the large increase in spending this month relative to last month. And now looking at the daily spend, we can see that is primarily driven by a charge on a single day. So we can use that information to help us further investigate that increased spending. Down below the daily spend, we also have breakdowns by cost center, business application, and cost allocation. Since currently we don't have tag categories configured or the shared cost allocations configured, these breakdowns are currently just showing you the total monthly spend. But once we get those configured, there'd be a more useful breakdown here in these charts. And below that, we have the spend per purchase option, which shows the reserve versus on-demand spending, and the spend per region to give you kind of a high-level overview of the spending by each of the cloud regions. That covers today's demo on billing download jobs, price sheet download jobs, and analyzing your cloud spend using the available spend dashboards. Now I'll turn it back over to Randy to cover where we are on the cloud cost management implementation journey and to wrap things up. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Brian. And just to kind of summarize what we talked about today, we discussed and we showed you how to set up and validate your pricing and billing downloads in order to ensure your cost accurately tracking cost. As we move past it and we move into our next phase, we'll be talking about user management, assigning roles in the cloud service providers and then mapping those accounts to owners for accountability. So, stick with us. We'll be back with our next video around user management. Thank you very much. Talk to you all soon.